It's you can imagine how it used to be with teenagers who had Christmas break off and they'd come back, I don't remember anything. So, okay, sí. Para los que están viendo todo después de la clase, for everybody who's seeing things after class, this is our last class session for winter. And then we've got 2 full weeks off, and then we start back up April 7th. So if you have not, those who are watching later, if you have not signed up yet, please do so. We need 3 more signups to make that a green light go. My Wednesday classes are all definitely in for sure signed up and ready to go and all green lighted. Okay. Muy bien. ¿Qué vamos a hacer? What are we going to do today? Today we're going to review our video. We're going to have our examples of past with the verbs we talked about.
Right.
So the examples of past will be examples of estaba for uh, was or were, yeah, instead of is or are. It's going to be the examples of tener, and we'll
Tener.
talk a little bit more about tener and why it's, well, a special verb because it is. Uh, Tener in the past will be the tenía form. Somebody had something, yeah. And querer, wanted. And so those will be our examples. And then we're going to uh, finish out with a brand new verb, but it's going to be all by itself because it is kind of unlike the other past idea verbs that we're going to talk about today. So we're going to do a review on any video questions, our practice with past tenses and little lesson and our reading.
Marilyn,
See,
Marilyn, may I regress just a little bit, I hope, and ask you a question that kind of
sí, sí,
bridges?
sí. Oh, sí, claro, sí.
Sarah and the star. I'm getting confused about, I always think of the star as being location, but there are some instances where it's not. Can you
Yes.
try that?
Okay. See, okay, here is the mini crash course to refresh your mind because you know what? Ser and estar starts to create a lot of problems when you learn the past because not only are you dealing with the past of estar, but you're dealing with, wait a minute, when do I use ser and when do I use
Yeah,
estar,
I'm
right?
confused.
Which both mean to be. And if you feel like, oh, I have trouble with this, please know for English speakers, this is continually a problem. It is, yeah, ser and estar is a those two things for saying to be are so unnatural for English speakers that they are studied all 4 years of a 4-year high school course, and they continue to be studied in university after that. So it is continual renewal, continual examples with ser and estar. Here is the mini refresher of when to use estar. For how you feel and where you are, always use the verb estar. It's a dummy little saying, but it helps. For how you feel and where you are, always use the verb estar. So we use estar for location, and we use estar for feelings and emotions, changeable states, states that are easily changeable. Okay. Um, so whenever we want to talk about how somebody felt, right? What they were feeling like, their state of health. But if you're talking about it in the past, you're going to need that estaba verb, yeah, instead of estoy bien, I'm fine. Estaba bien, I was fine. Yeah. Okay. Bien. And location. Yeah. Location only has one little odd thing is if you have location for an event, like the wedding was at a certain place, then it uses ser, not estar. But don't worry about that because you're not going to have need for that as much in conversation.
Is that pretty
Yeah.
much the only time you use ser?
Uh,
For,
oh, ser for
no, for location.
ser is used for location in one
And that's
really specific situation, and that
okay.
is when you're talking about an event that takes place,
Okay.
because ser also has the meaning of take place. So, por ejemplo, if I want to say, uh, uh, my friend's house was near my house. Yeah. My friend's house was near my house. La casa de mi amiga estaba cerca. It was
Mhm.
nearby. Yeah. Because that's the location. But if I want to say uh, the wedding, the wedding was at the hall. Yeah. Like a wedding reception, right? Or let's say, just say, make it easier. The wedding was at the church. Yeah. La boda. A wedding is an event. Yeah. It's not a thing that is plopped in a certain place. It is an event. So the wedding is at the church is la boda es en la iglesia. The wedding was at the church because you're describing where you went to the wedding, um, will be more like this. La boda era en la iglesia. La boda era. Okay, because era would be that past of ser. Or probably more likely, la boda fue en la iglesia. La boda fue, because that would be the preterite. And we'll talk a little bit more about that
Okay. Thank
preterite
you.
thing and why it's goofy. That the preterite versus the imperfect stuff is what is harder for
Oh,
English speakers to get. Kind of like said in estar is harder for us to get.
one
Is
more
that
one more question.
sí, sí.
So far, these unusual verbs, or the usual ones, I guess, have been basically used the imperfect most of the time. Is that true of most verbs, or is that just this bunch?
That is okay. Because of my pregnant pause, you're going to get depende. It depends. Yeah. But we are going to talk about that because the verb we're going to do very last of all that you have not seen yet is ir. And
Yeah.
that's going to follow a different kind of pattern. But I think it will help because of the nature of what ir means. I think it's going to be easier to understand why it's going to follow a different pattern.
Okay.
Yeah, what you have been using it so far mostly has been that aba or ia, right? Which we call imperfecto. It's one type of past tense. Imperfecto has a job in Spanish, and its job is when some action is repeated or when it's not easy to define in a time period. And whether a verb, some verbs you definitely hear more in imperfecto, some verbs you hear definitely more in pretérito. Why? It is because the nature of whatever that action is, and you're going to see why at the end of that. Okay. So, and I've got my big buildup. You'll understand. We have to look at the core of what is that action talking about. Okay, why? Because an action like going someplace is different in its essence than wanted. Yeah. Or was. Yeah. If I want to say the key was in my pocket, do I know how long it was in my pocket? Maybe not. Yeah. That thing was in my wallet. Oh, the card was in my wallet. Ah, where is it now? The card was in my wallet. Was the nature of that verb. It's hard to put that in a neat little time box and say, oh, it's done. Yeah. If uh, I had a very small bedroom when I was a kid. How long was that? long time when I was a kid. Yeah. Don't know how long that was. There is one mode in Spanish for it happened, it's over, I think, but I can't really encapsulate it in a neat time frame where I know there's a beginning and I know there's an end. I don't know necessarily when the beginning and when the end was in the past, just that it existed. Yeah. So there are two different ways of talking about the past in Spanish. And again, like ser and estar, it is an abstract kind of concept. But certain actions will lend themselves to more frequently being used in the over and done with past versus the kind of nebulous, blobby, when did this really happen? Past tense. So you'll see a little bit of that later. That's a very good question, though, Julie, because yeah, you did notice that what I gave you to work on uh, was in a certain mode. Yeah, and I kind of ignored the other mode, or I just gave you a fleeting glimpse. But we'll take a look at why that happens, right? And right now we are looking at, just so you know, uh, common past verbs. The reason you're getting these as an introduction is that so many of the storytelling videos, uh, so many of them, you wind up hearing a past tense of one of these verbs because because they're so common in what we talk about every day, all the time, right? There is versus there was. Uh, uh, it is versus it was. I am versus I was. Yeah. And
Right.
the same with estar because is and was. I have versus I had. I want versus I wanted. Yeah. I'm going versus I went. That is going to be the outlier. Those verbs right there, and you could probably add other verbs to the list, but in terms of when you hear storytelling, those verbs on this list, you are going to wind up hearing past tenses of these a lot because it's almost impossible to avoid it when you hear listening comprehension videos. It's very hard to avoid was. It's very hard to avoid went. Yeah. Okay. So that's the reason we're focusing on these. The whole idea of using the past is a really, really huge topic in Spanish. But what you're going to wind up seeing is that these, with ir being the outlier,
Mhm.
these, haber, ser, estar, tener, querer, if you look at how often you hear these verbs, these are usually, and I want to say probably they're going to be in the 70 to 80% range, give or take.
Okay.
You're usually going to hear that imperfecto type of past with these particular verbs. But ir is going to be an outlier. It's going to do something different. And you'll see what that is towards the end of class. See? Bien? Okay. A ver. But before I get into that, because it's Grammarese, we're going to take a look at our video and see what kinds of questions you might have had about the video, because they did sprinkle in some past tense verbs in there. And so I want to know if you have any questions about a term he used or a phrase he used where it's like, that didn't make sense to me, or I don't get what he was, what he was trying to express.
Marilyn, I had three things that I wrote down
Okay.
that the first two were kind of starting around 7 minutes in the video or a few seconds later. First, I got a big laugh out of his punk spirit. Yeah, I
Yeah.
like that. But then he used two phrases that let's just say I'm not sure about.
Okay.
The first one was cara de pan, and the second one, which was maybe 10 or 15 seconds later, was culo de panadero.
Oh, okay. Let's see the context. Oh yeah, he started with the punk thing. Okay.
The Clash, en fin, yo tenía un espíritu punk.
Oh, and look at that. Yo tenía un espíritu punk. I had a punk spirit. Oh, there's one of our frequently used, hard to avoid. I was at heart a punk guy. Yeah. What kind of music he liked? Tenía un espíritu. If I was a metal band fan or a punk fan, yeah, and I want to say tenía un espíritu, I can't say that was over and done with, can I? How long were you a punk fan? I don't know. I can't define it with a beginning and an end, and that's why it winds up being tenía.
Tenía,
Because
¿no?
most of the time when we use tenía in the past. Okay, I'm going to let it roll.
Increíble. Y ahora lo que tengo es cara de pan. Cara de pan. He pasado
Cara de pan. Cara de pan, a bread face. This is a colloquial phrase. I don't think you would hear this one so much in Mexico, but you do in Spain. Cara de pan. Chico bueno, inofensivo, sumiso. A bland, blah, kind of goody two shoes. How's that for an explanation? Yeah?
de
Okay.
tener espíritu punk a tener cara de pan. Cara de pan. Y con cara de pan, ¿dónde vas? ¿Dónde vas con esta cara de pan que tengo?
Where are you going with that?
Y el culo de panadero. Y el culo de panadero. Tengo un
Culo is your butt end. It's a butt. It's not a very nice word for butt, B-U-T-T, but yeah, word for butt.
culo enorme. Tengo un culo enorme. Porque claro, me paso todo el día sentado sin hacer.
Kind of bakery butt. I'm sitting all day long, is what he's talking about here, right? Me paso todo el día sentado sin hacer
ejercicio. En fin, es que
without exercising, sin hacer. I'm sitting on my back end all day without doing any exercise.
me cuesta mucho moverme, me cuesta mucho
So it's really hard to move. Me cuesta. It costs me to move. It's hard for me to move around.
hacer ejercicio.
hard to
Cada vez me cuesta más, cada vez me cuesta.
Cada vez me cuesta más. Cada vez más is more and more. Instead of saying más y más, more and more, it's cada vez más. Yeah. The idea of saying more and more. Cada vez me cuesta más. It's harder and harder for me. Cada vez literally means each time or every time. So cada vez más is each time more. Yeah. Cada vez me cuesta más. It is harder and harder for me.
Got it.
Cada vez más, we combine, we kind of wrap in the middle, the white in the Oreo cookie is going to be the verb part. See? Okay.
Estaba, chicos. Me estoy deprimiendo, de verdad.
I'm getting
Me
depressed.
estoy
he says.
deprimiendo.
Me estoy deprimiendo. I'm getting depressed. Bien.
Yo creo que debería empezar a hacer algún deporte así, ¿no? Como es.
I think you ought to start doing some kind of sport.
Quizás me pongo a hacer skating.
Maybe I'll do skateboarding.
Sí, quizás me pongo a hacer skating o.
Poner means to start to do something. Poner means to put or to place. See?
Okay.
Me pongo a hacer because they don't have a verb for skateboarding. It's hacer skate, do skate, hacer skate. Yeah. Maybe I'll start skateboarding. Creo que-
Ganchillo. Ganchillo también
Maybe I'll start crocheting.
es una posibilidad.
Yeah, that's possible too.
Yo creo que a mi edad, yo creo que
At my age,
debería ponerme a hacer ganchillo
at my age, I think maybe I ought to start crocheting.
en lugar de skating, porque ya soy muy viejo.
En lugar de, instead of skateboarding. At my age, I think maybe I should be crocheting instead of skateboarding.
Tío, soy muy viejo.
Ya soy muy, now
Bueno, me voy a mi
I'm
casa.
kind of an old guy now.
Me voy a mi casa porque me estoy...
Okay, did that answer your questions there, Marcos, or is there?
Yeah, it did. I do have one other while I'm kind of unmuted here. There was, I didn't know where it showed up, but he used the word ganas, as in desire, I believe.
Yes.
But I guess looking back some, the verb ganar, well, at least what I recall, it was to win. So I
Okay.
didn't quite connect.
Ganas can be a verb form of ganar. Ganar means to win or to earn, like earn money. See? ¿Cuánto dinero ganas en tu posición? Maybe you ask your kid, how much money do you get in that new position, kid? Yeah, see? ¿Cuánto dinero ganas? ¿Cuánto dinero ganas? How much money do you earn? But ganas in that sense is a conjugation of ganar. There is also a noun called ganas, an actual noun, person, place, or things, or nouns. And ganas means a deep-seated desire. Okay? And it's usually used with tener, tengo ganas. And it might be used by itself, worked into a sentence, but tener ganas is to have a desire, but it's not just kind of a bland, oh, I want to do something. It's you have a really deep desire to do something. That is what ganas is. Ganas used as a noun is a desire. Usually it's kind of a strong desire. Por ejemplo, tengo muchas ganas, I really want, tengo muchas ganas de viajar. Tengo muchas ganas de viajar a los parques nacionales.
National parks.
I really want to get out and travel at the national parks, por ejemplo. ¿Sí? Ganas is a word that is very much a word you hear quite a lot in Spanish when people say they really want to do something. Tengo ganas de aprender a tocar el piano. I really want to learn to play piano. Yeah.
Okay.
Not just a passing bland, well, I might want to do that someday. I really want to do this. They use ganas. Tener with ganas. Okay. A ver, momentito. I took that off screen. I should not have done that. Any other questions you had on any chart? Those are good questions, yeah? That culo is the butt word. One of my students who grew up in a Hispanic family, I remember this, was using, kind of throwing that word around. One of her projects, I said, I know in your family you probably say, hey, quit sitting on your, or get off your, or set your butt down, but please don't use culo when you say that, like for a presentation, because it's just a little too rude. It's like saying, sit your ass on down. Why? Yeah. So, I said, it's got to pass the grandma test for you to put it on a piece of paper. And now it's like your big poster thing. Sit your ass down is probably not what you want the whole school to read. Even though, I'm sure that gets thrown around in the family. Just, yeah. Okay. I mean, it's not a terrible word, but it's just, not tasteful. Okay. Bien. Hay otra pregunta. Any other question on any phrase he used or any vocab he used? He was lamenting getting old.
Yeah.
Can't skate the longboard like those kids. Yeah, he was lamenting. It was a lament on getting old. But we have these little gems in, some estaba and era and tenía. So, the thing is, again, it's thrown out there. You hear it used in context. Uh, Use in context is always helpful. Okay. Actually, he even had tenía una cresta roja. I had a red mohawk.
Yeah.
Yeah, when he talked about cresta, that was a mohawk haircut because he was talking about the punk thing. And so, yeah, it gives you the idea of why do I use tener always or usually in that tenía form? Well, he's not talking about when he got a mohawk, not
Yeah.
when he decided to get that haircut, or when he stopped and he grew it out. He was saying, I had this, yeah. And
True.
the emphasis on that is saying what he used to look like, right? With this haircut. And used to does not have a beginning. We can easily define the emphasis is not, it happened in this time period on a timeline, and now it's all done. The emphasis is, I used to look this way. Yeah. Bien. So that's why it gets the tenía form. Yeah. And we'll get back into that. We'll jump back into that right away. Okay. So, Julie, actually, you did not steal my thunder, but you did. You did very nicely preface something. You are learning just a very tip of the iceberg part of past, and you're learning this because in a lot of the storytelling that is done with videos to help you with listening comprehension, it is impossible to avoid these absolute most commonly heard verbs. Okay, so right now we are focusing on what they call the imperfecto today, but we're going to step out of that imperfecto world and look at the pretérito at the end when we look at ir. So nothing is 100%, but in most of our daily chit chat with people, these particular verbs, because they talk about the state of things, wind up being used in imperfecto with greater frequency. So you want to know the greater frequency, the things you're likely to hear. Yeah. If I want to say there's not a nice, neat beginning and end to there was. If I want to say I was, or yeah, I was with, and we're going to lump ser and estar together. Whether I was a researcher, I was a painter, yeah. Even I was young. There's no nice beginning and end, to that necessarily. So you're going to wind up hearing a lot of imperfecto with ser and estar, higher frequency. Yeah. Again, with tener, when you say somebody had something, generally we are not confining that to a time period, right? When you want to say you wanted something, the emphasis is the fact that you wanted. When did you start wanting and when did it end? We don't really know. So the imperfecto talks about when we want to say something in the past, but the emphasis is not on a duration of time, just that this was in a certain state, right? And those actions of had, wanted, was, they're not events that you can say, oh, started here, ended here. So you wind up hearing them much, much, much more with imperfecto, but of course it's never 100%. So I want you to, we're focusing on some examples with estaba, right? And remember, with this imperfecto, the yo form winds up being the exact same conjugation form as the third person singular. In the imperfecto conjugations, that's just the way it is in Spanish. With imperfecto, the yo form and the él, ella, usted form, third person singular, wind up being the same, right? And of course, you'll know it's a plural if an N is at the end. You'll know it's a we if it's a mos at the end. You'll know it's a tú if it gets just a plain S instead of a mos, but just a plain S at the end. So I'm going to make this bigger. Voy a engrandecer. Esto sí. Bien, 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 bien. Here's the part where we have our examples, right? So, la casa de mis abuelos estaba muy cerca de mi casa. Mi esposo estaba muy emocionado. My husband was very excited, sí, porque fuimos al parque, because we went to the park. Yo estaba enferma. I was sick, and the emphasis is not on I got sick, like it started here, but I was for, I don't know how long, a while, yeah? The emphasis is on the state. When we talk about somebody's state emotionally or state physically in the past, most of the time it's going to be this estaba verb. Estaba enferma porque comí demasiado. I was sick because I ate too much, porque comí demasiado, because I ate too much durante la feria. Después de andar en bicicleta 20 millas, yo estaba muy cansada. After biking for 20 miles, I was really tired. Yeah. And I don't know when you started being tired and when you finished being tired, just that's the state I was in. And a state I was in is not neatly confined in a chunk of time. So it'll be estaba. Or estaba muy nublado. Some of our weather expressions that use estar, right? Estaba soleado, it was sunny. Estaba nublado, it was cloudy, right? Anytime you talk about descriptions in the past, right? Used to be a certain way, imperfecto, the aba or ia type verb endings, or descriptions. And cloudy is a description. Descriptions in the past will use this imperfecto also. Está muy nublado. Anybody got an example? 1, 2, 3 examples? So using estaba in some way. Andrés, sí.
Mi perro estaba muy emocionado cuando salimos a dar un paso en el carro.
Sí, estaba muy emocionado. He was all excited. Yeah. Sí. We're describing how he felt, and descriptions go into imperfecto because the emphasis is not on when it started or ended, but the state he was in. It's a description. So it's estaba emocionada. Bien. Otro ejemplo, Andrés. Otro? Any other? With
Yes.
estar?
I'm not sure about this one, but I'm going to say it anyway, and we can chew on it. Estaba lloviendo la semana pasada.
Estaba lloviendo. It was raining.
Yeah, it was raining last
Sí,
week.
bien.
Now,
Perfecto.
I might say it rained last week if I was talking to somebody, but if I wanted to get the estaba in there, I had to say it was raining.
There you go. Andres, you have hit on exactly, with weather in particular, why I would choose estaba lloviendo versus it rained, llovió. if my emphasis is that this happened yesterday and boy, really done. If my emphasis is that it happened and it's done, right? Then I take that verb llover, to rain, and I put it into what they call pretérito because now I'm emphasizing the event. Llovió ayer, it rained. Llovió, that's preterite. Llovió, it rained. But you want to describe to somebody, wow, it was really raining. That's a description. That's considered a description. It was raining. Estaba lloviendo. And you know what? Somebody is going to expect maybe more information tagged on to that comment of estaba lloviendo, like this. Estaba lloviendo y no salí. It was raining and I did not leave.
No sale.
Okay. I did not go out. Okay. So I'm telling you, I'm painting a picture in your brain of estaba lloviendo. I'm describing to you, it was raining, it was raining, it was raining. I'm not telling you when it started and when it ended. Yeah. I'm describing, I'm setting the scene. I couldn't go out.
No sale.
Yeah. And that's an event that I couldn't go out. But it was raining it wasn't before I thought about should I leave or shouldn't I? It was raining. Right? While I was mulling it over, making my decision, it was raining. It's still a description. Yeah. Oh, I didn't go out and my day was shot. Estaba lloviendo. It was raining. It's the whole scene of what happened during that time period. It's a description. Bien. Okay. Otro Andrés, o no?
Estaba asustada cuando mir por el borde del edificio.
What's the word you got after estaba again?
Cuando
Estaba.
estaba. This is a little new word I'm using here. Correction, ASUSTADA.
Oh, hang on.
Estada. I was scared when I looked over the edge of the building.
Estaba. I'm sorry.
Estada.
I'm trying to.
ASUSTADA.
Oh, okay. Asustado. Asustado.
That's
With a T in there, right?
yes.
¿Sí? Asustado. Okay. Buen ejemplo. Estaba asustado. Estaba asustado means scared. Yeah. Frightened or scared. And that's a feeling, isn't it? And feelings are descriptive. Yeah. Estaba asustado. I was scared when something else happened. See? Bien. Estaba, because it's a state for how you feel or where you are, always use the verb estar. So, estaba asustado. And notice when you just say, I was scared when something happened, you're talking about your emotional state. It's a description. Therefore, it's estaba, right? That is slightly different in its emphasis than something scared me. Okay? If something scared me, boom, got in my face, that's an event. And it won't be estaba. It would be like we can use asustar as a verb. A la serpiente, the snake. La serpiente me asustó. The snake scared me. It did that to me. And that reaction of, yeah, I went into a panic is an event that happened. Boom, right? But I was scared. How long did that last? I don't know. It's a description. Estaba asustado. Bien. Okay. Bien. I'm trying to paint a picture to show you how a scared as a description will be imperfecto. Estaba asustado or asustada if you're a female. Versus something scared me and then it provoked a reaction that happened like that. In which case it won't be estaba. It'll be a true past tense, what they call preterite, pretérito verb. Ok, bien, gracias. Buenos ejemplos, Andrés. Buenos ejemplos. Bien, alguien más. Anybody else got some examples with estaba, estaba? Any other contributions? Marcos, sí.
I've got one. Cuando vivía en Texas, estaba un aficionado de los partidos de Houston, pero ahora también me gustan los partidos de Phoenix.
Okay. Now, the only problem is your verb tense is good, but if we say you were a fan, estar with the word aficionado, fan, how you feel or where you are, always use the verb estar. Can I use estar with fan? Fan is a noun.
Well, I'm trying to say I used to be a fan of.
Yes. And here's what you're going to need. Era. Now, if you find that hard, don't feel bad because it is. Okay? So, era aficionado. I was a fan. Era aficionado de los partidos de los equipos de Texas. I was a fan of the teams. Era aficionado. We need to use a past of ser to say I was a fan. It's like saying era ingeniero. I was an engineer. Or era maestra. I was a teacher. Yeah.
Teacher.
I know aficionado, fan is not a job, but it's a noun. Yeah. So if I was that thing we call a fan, then it'll be era. Era instead of estar. But you're right in that it would be one of these imperfectos. So you're at least in the right mode, the right way of thinking. It's just that we can't use aficionado fan with estar. That's all. Estaba muy ilusionado con los equipos de deportes. I was really excited about the sports teams. But then excited about is a feeling, yeah? For how we feel or where you are, we got to use the verb estar, ¿sí? Otro ejemplo. Do you have a different example, Marcos, for that one or no? No?
No.
Okay, vale. Jean, you had something.
Tengo dos ejemplos. La playa estaba muy cerca de mi casa in
Bien.
Wisconsin.
Perfecto, sí.
Right? That one was similar to one of your examples, but that at least got me going.
But we often talk about stuff like that.
Yeah.
You know, how close
Yeah.
it was. Oh, estaba
Yeah.
muy lejos. It was far. Estaba
Yeah.
muy cerca. Sí.
Sí.
It was close.
So,
Perfecto.
dos is la clima estaba muy bonita para la boda de mi hija.
Okay, sí. It was very pretty.
The weather was very pretty for the
Sí.
wedding of my daughter. Mhm.
Sí.
Sí.
Could be era, could be estaba. That is kind of waffly, but that's okay. Sí, bien.
Okay.
Bien.
That's the
Because it
question I
looked
had.
pretty. Because
Sure.
it looked pretty. We can use estaba, yeah.
Right. So
Uh,
my question is to talk about the weather. Isn't it? It could be el tiempo as
sí,
well, right?
sí,
Okay. I was trying to decide which one of those to use. So
sí.
those were my two. Thank you.
Bien, muy bien. Otro con estaba. Any other examples with estaba?
Okay.
Danita, ¿sí?
Estaba enojado con mi vecina porque siempre pone la música demasiado alto.
Bien. Sí. Bien, bien. Bueno, ¿otro ejemplo, Danita, o no?
Estamos muy tristes cuando termino la clase.
Bien, sí. Ok, bien, bien. Bueno, Sam, did I see your hand up? Sí.
Yes,
Ok,
okay.
vale.
Al agua en el sonido estaba agitada. The water in the sound was very choppy.
Sí, sí. And that's a state the water was in, right?
Yes.
Water can be in many states. Temperature, level of movement, yeah, and sí, bien. Bueno, vale. ¿Otro ejemplo, Sam, o no?
No, leave it alone.
No.
Okay.
Okay. But describing what that water was like, it's the state it was in, and it's description. Description uses these ideas of era or estaba, right? And estaba in particular with emotions, and then of course we can throw in location. Bueno, más ejemplos con estaba, estaba.
I'll say
Move
one.
on.
Okay,
Oh, here you
Karen.
go.
Okay. La casa estaba en la ciudad.
Okay. Bien. So, yeah, I must. Is there more to that?
One.
I didn't know if you were still reading more.
No, there isn't any more to that sentence, but I have a couple other sentences.
Okay.
Okay. Ella estaba feliz de ver a su familia.
Perfecto. Sí, estaba feliz. She was happy to see them. Sí. Bien. Muy bien. Again, a feeling. How long was she happy? The emphasis is not on when she started being happy or when she ended being happy, just that she felt that way. And we need imperfecto when you're just describing how somebody felt, because there's just how it was, description. Okay. ¿Y más, Karen, or no?
No.
No? Bien. Okay. So, estaba, when you hear estaba, and it's gonna go quickly, right? Because that B in la letra, B grande, the big B, that is going to be a very soft consonant, yeah? Estaba, right? When you hear estaba, just know, oh, it's a was or a were instead of an is. Yeah, instead of is, are, was, were. See? Bien. Okay. Perfecto. So, estar does have what they call preterite over and done, but you will hear this less. You will hear it if the emphasis is on a time limit, right? So if I want to say, I was at the doctor's office at 1, the emphasis is not just, I was in the doctor's office. The emphasis is the time. And because I'm limiting it to time, then it would be, estuve en el consultorio del doctor a la 1, right? So if I am shifting that location to a time limit, then you'll hear something like this. But, if you want to say the office was on Shea Street, yeah, Shea Boulevard, el consultorio, the office, el consultorio del médico estaba en la calle Shea. It was, yeah, then it just always was in that location, not I was in that office at 1 o'clock. See? Por ejemplo. So you're going to hear this estaba more than you hear the other form, but just so that you know that time limit preterite, it needs something that emphasizes that this happened yesterday, that it happened at a certain time. It needs a time limit in order for you to hear it, because they have two different tenses, right? Or two different kinds of past tenses, I should say. Okay, we're going to have a similar situation with tener in the past. And you're going to hear tenía a lot, okay? Because this over and done with that we call preterite, past tense, really changes the meaning of tener a bit. It changes it more to the idea of got or received something in the past. And most of the time when we use tener in the past, we're not saying got or received something. Most of the time we're emphasizing that just somebody had something. And therefore, with had, the emphasis is not on the timeline. It's confined to. So you're going to hear the tenía form much, much, much more frequently than this preterite tuve form. And by the way, tuve sure does not look like anything like tener, does it? Yeah. This particular over and done with tense in Spanish has so many bizarre conjugations that do not follow a pattern. There are like gobs and gobs of verbs in that over and done with that have to be memorized because they don't follow a nice pattern. And TUVE sure doesn't look like TEN of tener. And why? I can't tell you why, but thank God this is less common. Yay.
Yeah.
Thank God you hear this more because tenía, you got the ten part in there. So you can at least guess. And it's an ia instead of an aba because the two endings for the used to do something, right? Or was doing something are the aba for AR verbs and the ia for ER and IR verbs. So tenía, I had, tenía also the same conjugation for he had or she had, right? And then we get these little things that will tell us, we're not using them so much now, but the most will tell us it's a we. The S at the end will tell us it's a tú of you form. The N at the end will tell us it's a they form. Okay, so, bien, the reason that had is so helpful is that so many times we say that I had something, he had something, we had something. Bien, and besides, in addition to that, tener has all kinds of these idioms like I was cold, I was hot, I was hungry. Yeah. And tener hambre, tener sed, I was thirsty, right? Tener frío, tener calor, tener éxito, be successful, tener suerte, be lucky, tener sueño, be sleepy. We have all these idiomatic expressions that we use with tener. So, bien, see? So here we want to, I want to show you the difference again. We'll just review this before we get into your examples. Using the past and over with forms means I got something. It came into my possession because that happened and then it's in my hot little hands. It was an event. Yeah. Tuve dos entradas. I got 2 tickets, meaning I bought them or somebody put them in my hand. See? Tuve dos entradas. I got tickets, not I had the tickets. If I just want to say I had a couple of tickets, it's tenía dos entradas. I had 2 tickets. I had them in my wallet. I had them in my purse. I had them in my pocket. I had them somewhere, right? I had them on my phone. Tenía dos entradas en la aplicación. I had 2 tickets on the app en mi celular, right? But I had these does not put a time limit on it. So you're going to hear that way, way, way more. Yo no tenía dinero en efectivo. I didn't have any cash. Mi hermana tenía 2 hijos. My sister had 2 kids, right? Mi padre tenía una familia grandísima. My dad had a big family all his life. He used to have, right? I don't have a time limit on it. Yeah. We generally don't talk about I had a family as a, well, that only lasted for 30 years. we don't usually put a time limit on it. Yeah. Bien. Vale. Yo tenía mucha hambre. Here's one of our idioms. I was really hungry. Después de hacer ejercicio, yo tenía mucha hambre. I was really hungry, right? Cuando estaba lloviendo, when it was raining, there you go, Andres. When it was raining, I was cold. Yeah. Yo tenía frío. So we might have idiomatic expressions like these last two, or talking about had something in your possession. Yeah. See? Bien? Okay. Let's see if you've got some examples using.
I have a quick question. Sorry, how would I
Please.
say, I received or got good news yesterday?
Oh, I got good news. I got good news. Okay. I won't use tenía for that because I got news happened like that. Yeah.
Okay.
It happened and it was over with. And that's why they're going to use a different kind of past tense because they've got a different past tense to say, ooh, this happened. So, tuve buenas noticias is different. Yeah. From tenía buenas noticias. Tuve buenas noticias. I got good news, meaning somebody told it to me or showed it to me on paper. Yeah. And it happened and then it was over with.
Okay.
Aha. English doesn't do that very neatly, or at least not often. Yeah. We don't have a neat distinction, and it's certainly not conveyed with a verb tense. It's conveyed with other words that put a time limit or in the idea of the imperfecto of Spanish, that idea of used to is a phrase we use in English that we would use imperfecto for. So, okay. Any examples with tener? Tenía.
I'll do it.
When Andres start off for us, and then Julie will go to you next.
Okay. Tiene mucho energía ese años.
Sí, tenía mucha energía. I had a lot of energy. I felt real peppy. Sí, tenía mucha energía. I felt peppy. I had a lot of energy. Bien, bien. Otro ejemplo, Andrés, ¿o no?
Tiene hambre cuando huele a hamburguesa.
Okay. Tenía hambre. I was hungry. ¿Sí? Cuando fui al restaurante, tenía hambre. When I went to the restaurant, I was hungry. Como así, like that. ¿Sí? Bien. Bueno, Julie.
Tenía mucho miedo cuando vi esa película.
Aha. Tenía mucho miedo. There is a good tener idiom because you have fear in Spanish. So tenía mucho miedo. I was really scared. ¿Sí?
Sí.
Tenía mucho miedo. The feeling I had, and I don't have a beginning and end, except it was going on while I was at the movies, so it's a description. Tenía mucho miedo. Bien, otro ejemplo, Julie.
Un otro. Mi familia tenía muchas fiestas cuando era joven.
Bien, sí. What the family had. Sí. Bien. Ok. Vale. O otro ejemplo mío. Tuve mucho sueño. Tuve mucho sueño. I was really sleepy. Tuve mucho sueño. Perdón. Tenía mucho sueño. Tenía mucho sueño. Tenía mucho sueño después de caminar en el desierto 2 horas. Tenía mucho sueño. I was really sleepy after a 2-hour walk. ¿Sí? Bueno, otros ejemplos con tenía.
Okay.
Jean, sí.
Yeah. Sure. Los niños tenían mucha hambre después de sus partidos de béisbol.
Perfecto. Sí, they were
Mhm.
hungry after those baseball games. Sí, tenían
Mhm.
mucha
Yep.
hambre.
Then I said, what did I say? Tenemos? Well, no, wait. Tenemos is how do you say it?
Tenemos es presente.
Teníamos?
Teníamos, muy bien.
Yeah, teníamos un buen tiempo el fin de semana pasado.
Ah, it would be okay, except we don't use tener to say had a good time. Oh,
Oh,
I'm going to show you what that looks like, however. There are different ways to say had a good time.
sure.
Bien. And are we generally describing how somebody felt? You say, yeah, had a good time. Okay, here is probably the top number one verb they used to say had a good time. And I know because our brains translate literally, we think tener buen tiempo, but that won't make sense to somebody in Spanish. Here is what they will use. Oh, and it's going to stay on blue. Bien. La pasábamos bien, ¿sí? La, or it could be a lo. It could be a lo. Lo is favored in Spain. La is favored in Latin America. I can't tell you why. La with pasar and bien. La with pasar and bien. Okay. La pasábamos bien. We were having a good time. We were having a good time. If the emphasis of your expression is we had a good time and it's truly over, it's done, it'll go into what they call the pretérito, which thankfully looks exactly like the present tense. La pasamos bien.
La pasamos bien.
Oddly enough, the we form for a regular verb for an over and done with sounds exactly like the present tense form. It's the conjugation. So la pasamos bien could be we are having a good time right now. La pasamos bien could be we had a good time, meaning, oh, that was yesterday and it's not yesterday anymore. But la pasamos bien, we were having a good time. See?
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yep.
And yeah, we cannot use tener with buen tiempo. You can, you just won't be understood. Yeah. They'll go, what do they mean? Yeah, tener is, a possession thing. And how do you have a good time? You pass it well, yeah? And there are a couple other verbs, but this is probably the one you'll hear most often. Okay, otros ejemplos con tenía. Any other examples with tenía?
I'll skip.
See? No? Not? Okay. Adelante. Moving on. We're going to have our last prep idea. There was, I don't know a beginning and an end. I was, or she was. We don't know a beginning and an end. I had something. The emphasis is not on a beginning or an end, but and wanted falls into the same category. The nature of that action, to want. When did you start wanting? When did you finish wanting? Did you ever really finish wanting? So we will very seldom hear these preterite forms. And look how bizarre. Quise doesn't look anything like querer or sound anything like querer. But fortunately for you, quería does look a lot like querer. Querer is a stem changer. Here's a fun fact. Stem changers do not exist in imperfecto. So verbs as stem changers, well, tener would be in that group too. Like quiero, I want, the I-E of quiero. That I in the middle of quiero disappears. There are no stem changes in imperfect tense. imperfect. And usually not in preterite either, but sometimes they do pop up here and there. But they're specialized cases, and you don't need to know about that now. So that nature of wanted, because I don't really know when wanted started and when wanted ended, and did it even end ever? I don't know. We don't hear it very as often in pretérito. We hear it a lot in imperfecto, and it'll always be quería, quería. See, quería, querías, quería, queríamos, querían, wanted. Yeah. It's a feeling. It's not easily defined with an ending or a beginning. So querer is used a lot in imperfecto. Let's see if you can come up with some examples. Alguien, anybody with querer, quería, quería.
I'll give you one.
Okay, bueno, Sam.
Okay, it's el miércoles pasado quiera una porción de pizza.
Quería, quería, right? So here is
Quería.
kind of a fun fact to think about. Quería,
Okay.
we're generally going to combine with either a thing, you wanted a thing, or generally you'll combine quería with the idea of, oops, can't get him to go, to do something, which means it'll be an infinitive. So let me give you two examples, because actually I neglected to give an example in there, and I should not have neglected that. I'm going to say when I was a kid. Cuando era niña. Cuando era. Boom, 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 boom. Cuando era niña, when I was a kid, when I used to be a little kid.
Mhm.
Yeah. When did I start being a little kid and when did I stop being a little kid? I don't know. 8, 10, 12. Okay.
Right.
Imperfecto, because I don't know when it was beginning or an end. Cuando era niña, when I used to be a little kid, quería un perro. I wanted a dog, a thing. See? Quería. I wanted. Here's an example of not combining querer with an action instead of a thing. Quería nadar. I wanted to swim. Quería nadar, pero no tenía traje de baño. I wanted to swim, but I didn't have a swimsuit. And I've got two imperfectos. Quería nadar. I wanted to do something, nadar, pero no tenía, but I didn't have a swimsuit. Yeah. Yeah. Bien. Okay. Otros ejemplos con quería. Any other examples, Sam? Did you have a different example?
No, I did
Okay. O ejemplos con quería. Julie, sí.
Mi hija quería más dinero para comprar ropa nueva.
Bien. Quería más dinero. She wanted more money. Yeah. Okay. Bien. Para comprar, to buy, yeah, whatever. Yeah. Lo que sea, whatever it might be. Buen ejemplo, buen ejemplo. Jean, sí.
Sure. Quería una pizza fría por mi desayuno.
Sí. Quería pizza fría. I wanted some cold pizzas.
Sí.
Eso, sí. Bien. Muy bien.
Then un otro. Quería dibujar una imagen de una jirala. I didn't know the word jirala, but it means giraffe. So
Okay.
I wanted to draw a picture of a giraffe.
Sí, jirafa. See, quería dibujar. I wanted to draw. Okay, there's an example with a verb. Quería dibujar. I wanted to draw. I wanted to do something.
Okay.
Bien. Buenos ejemplos. Buenos ejemplos. Hay más ejemplos. More examples. Con quería. Any other examples you want to share with quería? No?
That one.
Bien. Okay. Adelante. Here is our last piece of info. Oh. Quería, wanted. Tenía, had. Estaba, was. Era, was. Okay. Había, there was. It existed, right? Ir is going to break that pattern of using this. Wow, iba doesn't even look like ir either, does it? It is actually one of the very few irregular forms. Perdón. Need to put a space in there. Okay. You will hear iba, but iba a plus an infinitive means was going to, meaning it didn't happen. Yeah. Okay. Let's look at why we use ir first. Let's go back to the drawing board. Why do we use ir, to go? To go means physically to move in space. Yeah. Like I went to the Grand Canyon, right? We went on vacation, right? He went to the dentist, right? Moving in location. We also use ir to say going to do something for future, something that's definitely going to happen. Yeah. I'm going to go to the dentist. Voy a ir, right? Ir, a, and a place, you're moving in space. Ir, a, and an infinitive, you're going to do something, and it really is going to happen, right? Voy a manejar a Phoenix. I'm going to drive to Phoenix. See? Vamos a comer. We're going to eat, and we're really going to do that. It talks about the future. So ir has two jobs. Ir is to talk about future action. Ir plus the little word a, and then an infinitive that doesn't get conjugated. And ir is to talk about moving in space, going to a certain location. Okay. So we're moving from the idea of go, presente, present, to went. Went for location, moving in space, is an event, isn't it? Most of the time. I went to the store. We went to the Grand Canyon, right? She went to her friend's house. We went to the park. Went, unlike wanted or had, is an event. And it happens. The nature of went is like that. It happens, and then it's done. Yeah? You move in space, you get to that other location, and you're done with it. So, unlike the other verbs, you're going to hear ir more with higher frequency in what they call that preterite, pretérito, tense, because the nature of that action of went is over and done quickly. Okay? Ir, sadly, is super irregular. Of course it is, because, yeah. Ir is very irregular in preterite tense. Actually, it's irregular and imperfecto also. But this fui thing sure does not look like ir. Where the heck did that F come from? And now you, seriously? Okay, why? Well, it just is. So here's the thing. When you hear, we're going to look at something that will blow your brains out too in a little bit, but hey, fui a, and that a is underlined in bold for a reason because we need the a to say the idea of to and then the place, right? So, fui al médico. I went to the doctor. Fui al supermercado. Fui a la farmacia. I went to the pharmacy. See?
Right.
We went, fuimos a las montañas superstition. We went to the superstition mountains.
Right.
See? Fuimos a Flagstaff. Bien? Fui, fui is the yo form. Fuiste is the tu form. Fue is the él or ella or usted form. Oh, it's a different one. Fue is talking about one person, not me. Somebody, one person, or usted. Yeah. And fueron is they went. But notice this a is going to be your clue because you went to the word a place. Bien? Okay? So the odd thing about it is that FU, not the same meaning in English, and FU beginning, fui is a signal that it's
Fui.
went.
Fui.
It's a went, over and done. And, you know, and the nature of that verb ir, go, in past, lends itself much more often to preterite, what we call preterite. Okay? So, okay. Entonces, did I have another? I didn't. Bien, momentito. I need to reverse my
Yo ipan.
thing a little bit so I can add a slot. Ooh. There we go. So let's think about this. Ir, a, and then a place. That's our pattern, right? We want to say went to a place. Okay, vale. And here's the yo form. I'll make this a little bit bigger because I know for a lot of you, especially if you're on a tablet, that we need a bigger. Think of, there was a video I used to show the teenagers, and this was kind of an inventive thing. Kids would get confused between fui and fue. Fue is he went or she went, yeah? And fui is I went. And your typical 15 or 16-year-old would say, well, it's only one letter difference. I can't remember these. I get them mixed up. And the cute little cue was that think of yourself going on a roller coaster and you're going down the roller coaster and you go, whee, kind of like saying, wee, going down the roller coaster. Fui, that's for the yo. You're talking about yourself. Fui. Okay. But I do need this to talk about the signal to I'm talking about a place, yeah? Okay. Entonces, por ejemplo, fui a Colorado. Fui a Colorado. See? Let's make it a we ending instead, because you hear that a lot. Fuimos al mercado. We went to the market. Yeah. All these are kind of over and done with kind of actions. Yeah. Went is not like wanted. I don't know when wanted began and when wanted ended, but I went, you know that's over. Over. It's the kind of action that happens fast. See? Fuimos al mercado. ¿A dónde fuiste? did you go? ¿A dónde fuiste? Where did you go? Bien. All of those are going to be the went kind of verb. Bien? Make sense so far?
Mhm.
And it's easy to understand that went is easy to define as over and done with, not like wanted or it was. Yeah. They're easy to define in terms of time, that it's over with. Okay. So, okay. Let's take a look. Why would I even need an imperfecto? Well, there's only one. Well, no, I'll take that back. There are two situations where you'll need iba, and they're really limited. These fui, fuiste, fue, fuimos, fueron, you hear a lot because somebody went someplace. We use that like when we say went, this is like 70% of what we mean most of the time, just in normal everyday conversation. Fui is going to be more frequent, but there is a purpose for iba and the imperfecto. The purpose would be number one, if you used to go someplace, but you don't anymore. So you're talking about a habit in your childhood, or a habit when you were in your 20s, or a habit when you iba con mi papá, iba al parque con mi papá. I used to go to the park with my dad, meaning dad took you there a bunch of times. Not dad and I went there on Sunday, but dad and I went there every Sunday. Papá y yo íbamos al parque los domingos. If we went there every Sunday over and over again, it was our routine in the past. Then you'll hear iba or íbamos or iban. Yeah. So that's use number one for iba. And we talk in everyday conversation much more about where we went yesterday, or where you went at 2:00, or where you went at 9:00. Higher frequency than used to go in the past as a habit. Okay. There's a second purpose for iba. Iba a plus a plus an infinitive, and I'll show you that. Actually, I should leave this here in the notes for you so you've got it as a reference. Uy. Iba a plus a place would say used to go. And that means you went there a lot. I don't know how often, a bunch of times. And you don't know how many times. It was perhaps a routine. Okay? Iba a. Here is the other use for iba a. Iba a plus an infinitive. And then it means was going to do something. But the implication with that is that it didn't happen. Just like in English, it didn't happen.
Right.
If I say to you in English, oh, I was going to go to Paris. Do you think I made it there in English?
No.
I was going to go to Paris, but then the pandemic hit.
Right. There you go.
So, iba a viajar a París cuando empezó la pandemia. I was going to go to Paris when the pandemic came, when the pandemic started. And the implication with iba a is that it was a plan, but it never happened. Do you use that as much as you say, I went here, I went there, I went? You
No.
don't use it as much.
No.
It has a purpose, but in terms of like highest frequency, this is the form that you're going to use. You're going to need the pretérito way more. I'm sorry for my phone beeping. So preterite is used way more in Spanish for this particular verb, ir. It doesn't mean that you won't hear it in the other alternate tense, but it has a different purpose. It serves a different purpose. Make sense? See?
Mhm.
See?
Mhm.
Bien? Okay. So, what do you need to memorize or like train your brain to listen for? You need to train your brain to listen for this more urgently than the other form. Yeah.
Okay.
But it's the nature of that verb. Okay. So, Julie, to your earliest question about how do I know if I'm using those ia or aba verbs versus, and why was it heavy on that? Well, it was heavy on that because of the nature of those verbs. So let me show you what that means because it's kind of a weighty topic, but it vale la pena. It is worth it to ponder why we have that happening. So we're going to take a quick look at it. Why this happens in Spanish is that you have to think of the nature of the action of that verb before you decide between, is it pretérito, a finished, over with action, versus imperfecto. You have to be thinking about the nature of what that is. Now, that might sound kind of hard, but it isn't really. Think of something like went. Is that usually kind of easy to done?
It's not over and done.
Usually most of the time it's an over and done with. Usually it's going to be pretérito in the past. Yeah. What if you drove somewhere? Is that usually like an action you could define as it just happened and it's done?
Yeah, I drove to Prescott.
Yeah, I drove to Prescott, right? And now again, these are not like 100% things, folks, but it's an over and done kind of action, right? You want to say you ate something. Kind of
Done.
over and done, right? Over and done. So it's most of the time going to be what they call pretérito, right? If you want to say something like I washed clothes.
Done.
Are you talking about over and over? No. Most of the time it's an over and done. If you want to say Monday was laundry day, I used to do laundry every Monday, then you're going to choose that other aba or ia tense.
Right.
Yeah.
Correct.
Because then you're talking about a routine in the past.
Got it.
But if you just want to say, I did laundry on Monday, it's over
Over
and
and
done with, easy to define. You did it on that day, Monday. It's
Right.
got a time limit. Yeah. So the nature of, but if you want to say somebody felt some way, is that easy to define in a time limit?
No.
No. So usually that's going to take what they call the imperfecto, right?
Imperfect. Right.
If you want to describe how something looked, or how it sounded or how it tasted. Those are not put in the capsule of time, descriptions. So all descriptions in the past are going to use imperfecto. That's just in a nutshell why they have two past tenses, because they use them to convey either the idea of time and limited completion versus description, and it was going on like painting a scene and you're describing what something looked like. See? Or that something happened over and over again. Make sense? See?
Yes.
So, when you hear aba, or ia verbs very often, if you can like listen for the first half of like the core of that action, that core will sound like the infinitive it came from. So comía, comes from comer, right? Comía is going to be used to eat, but comí is I ate, over with. See? Bien? Vale? And past tense is a big topic, but these again, we wanted to isolate the verbs that you so often hear in the storytelling process. That's why we were limiting this to these verbs. See? Bien?
Yep.
Vale? Okay, bien. I'm going to try to pick a storytelling thing for you to have for our hiatus time, for a
Okay.
little listening, because I know it's really tough when you're off for a couple of weeks. And I may send you a couple, but I may send them in staggered emails because I want to give you something that you can listen to a few times and, get some benefit out of it. So I've got one all set up, but the second one might be maybe a week coming down the line, looking at a good thing that will be a good storytelling issue. Okay? Bien? ¿Todo bien? All good?
Mhm.
Bien.
Perfecto.
Okay.
Excelente.
Gracias.
De
Muchas
nada, de nada.
gracias.
Fue un placer. Was a pleasure. Bien. I will see you guys, hopefully.
Mhm.
3 weeks.
Mhm.
3 more time. I will hopefully see you guys on
Yes,
April
yeah.
7th.
Yes, you
And
will.
April 7th is the starting time, and I'll send like a week ahead of time a reminder for everybody with a
Okay.
new link, because it will need a new Zoom
Right.
link, and we'll be all
Okay.
set. Bien, todo bien.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Perfecto.
Muchísimas
Gracias.
gracias. Thank you very, very
Gracias.
much.